Eric Burgess here with Music Marketing TV, and today we're going to be checking out Faceplant. We're going to be looking at the nonlinear filter. I want to introduce you to it, give you a feel for what it sounds like and what it can do. So let's jump right in. So I've already created this sound. It's an FM-based sound without any filtering. It's a pretty nice, juicy sound. And what I did was I put a nonlinear filter here and hooked it up to the same envelope that's driving the FM. Now, first, let's look at the regular filter. So here's a regular, super clean filter. Sort of like, when you think digital, this is as digital as it gets, right? Very calculated filter. That's what it's going to sound like. Now, I should note here that if you're going to set up a patch like I have with an envelope, you need the poly mode on. Otherwise, when you hit another note, it's not going to trigger. So if I turn the poly on for lane 2, it'll re-trigger that. However, just be aware this could get pretty expensive CPU-wise down the line. But there's the sound of a very clean filter. And there's not a whole lot you can do in terms of the actual algorithm. It's mostly cutoff gain, the standard stuff. When you go to a nonlinear filter, they do things that aren't exactly what I guess we would consider ideal. And because of that, you can get a lot more interesting sounds out of a filter that sort of has this built in on purpose, these nonlinearities. Okay, so we're going to start here at the top with clean. So here's clean. Clean is going to sound extremely similar to the filter over here because it's clean. It's pretty much what you would expect when it comes to a filter. A digital filter. Let's go ahead and just contrast that real quick. You see extremely similar, and the order of processing in this case doesn't really make a difference. Now we're gonna go ahead over here and let's drive up the Q a bit. And you notice that clean, the drive is disabled. There's no drive for this mode. Let's go ahead and go over to saturated now. So here we get, you can just look at this. Just look at this. We can even make this a bit bigger for you. All that little stuff right there, that's where the magic's happening. So let's take the Q all the way down and the drive all the way down. Pretty similar sound, but we can begin to drive these nonlinearities. And we get a nice warmth that really comes out at the top here. If we go ahead and drive this also with the Q. So that's what sort of comes to the table. We're able to add these harmonics in, and any filter that gives me a drive control, I immediately almost like more than a normal filter. Versus with it off. So then, of course, it's going to depend on your sound, but usually some amount of drive and Q is really going to add some warmth to it, especially if you're using it like I am here as basically the volume envelope of your sound. We're going to go over here to Tubular. Drive this one harder. We'll start low. Really, you only really hear it come out at the very top of these values. Let's bring the Q up. Right around here we hit a little magic area where the drive and the Q sort of cancel each other out in an interesting way. Alright, so that's tubular. Let's go over to clipped. Let's go to warm. Let's push warm up. Let's bring the Q down first, because I think a low Q is always good to hear. And now let's contrast this one, because this one looks very similar, but this one sounds just so nice. Versus. Now the cutoff obviously is drastically different as far as the slope goes. Actually, on this filter, you can only actually get sharper from here. So you can make it sharper. You're not going to be able to make it less sharp. So that's another reason why you might actually go for the nonlinear filter. And let's go ahead and bring the Q up. I think this sound in particular really benefits from the warm algorithm. Let's go over to biased. This one looks like a crazy mess. Let's go ahead and see. Let's bring the drive up. Bring the Q up. Yeah, so you get really crazy with some of this. Okay, so let's go for fuzzy now. Kind of anticipate what this one's going to sound like. Let's lose the high Q. All right, let's go over to metallic. I've actually messed a great deal with metallic. I don't know what it is about it. It's like, to me, it's one of the more addicting ones. I think it's just because, like, just listen to high drive with a medium Q. It's interesting because the Q doesn't pop up. It like pulls down. All right, and finally, digital. Again, this one also has a similar effect to fuzz. Adds this unusual top end to most sounds. Let's compare digital and actually fuzzy. The high value. So you see how on the high end, it's a little, you get that distortion with digital. A lot more aggressive. And it's quite a bit brighter. You see, it's got kind of a similar vibe. I would basically call this just an extreme version of fuzzy almost. And when it comes to like audibly, what's the sound difference? That's what I would give it. So there's a little bit about the modes of the nonlinear filter. Let's actually set this up to work a little bit better with our performance here. So I'm going to come in and add a mod wheel. That's probably the big important thing I would do here. So we're going to grab the mod wheel. We're going to modulate the cutoff so that when we pull down, let's start off low and we'll have it open up instead. Yeah, so I'll have it like so that we could do, obvious filter stuff. We get that sort of emotion. And then this is where we'd pick our algorithms. Ones that I really liked were, I liked the top end of fuzzy, metallic, and the warm were really pleasant to me. So we're going to go ahead and mess around with metallic for now. Let's go ahead and add the mod wheel a bit to the Q. This is something that as I play through, I'll figure it out a bit. That's probably a good amount of Q. It's easy to overdo it on the Q. Might come back and adjust it because I'm also going to bring the drive in. So I go down an octave. Something like that. Let's try out warm. Maybe we'll get a nicer result out. We could probably push drive quite a bit harder on warm. And let's also try a high Q value on warm. Oh my gosh, I don't know. So if you want, I might have a separate control to push it just that extra little bit on a knob so that when performing, or playing in a part, I could use the mod wheel and I could have an extra, like a knob or something to do the extra like 10% at the very end. But there you go. That is an introduction to the nonlinear filter in the case of some sound design. Hopefully you got some cool ideas from this and got a sort of a vibe for what each of these sounds has to offer, so that when you grab it, you might choose this. Now, if you just want to do some regular filtering, cleaning up the high end, you could experiment with this. We only looked at the low pass. We could, of course, go for something like a high pass, which is going to be a totally different beast when it comes to how we set these controls up, but they're going to have similar sort of effects. And then if you're just looking to do some regular filtering, you might grab the filter module or one of the EQs that are provided if you have those. If you have any questions about this, feel free to let me know. Subscribe and hit that bell icon for future videos, and have a blessed day.